hear somebody's voice? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
One of you can unmute. Now and then if you can unmute, then it will be good to interact. Vinod, can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Please, you can unmute your audio and video in between and you can interact. All right. Okay. So at least when I'm asking something, one of you who wants to speak out can unmute. All right. Can I hear from you? Say yes or no. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. That's nice. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to connect with you all for the first time. Okay. I'm Dr. Sheila Ravinder. I'm an associate professor of physiology in Sri Ramchandra Medical College. So, am I audible, ma? Am I audible enough?
Yes, ma'am. Audible, ma'am. Audible, ma'am.
Anytime if my voice is slow, you want me to speak louder, please tell me. You can unmute and interrupt. That's okay. All right. Okay. So I will go to the presentation. So please don't think of me as a teacher and develop the student-teacher relationship, all right? Just think of me as a friend and you can chat with me. Okay, 1 second, I'll just present my screen. This, where do we have the present screen? Because this seems to be a different, we usually go on Google Meet. Vinod, are you there? Vinod, are you there? No. For the presenting screen, we have an option in Google Meet. Here, I don't find that.
Excuse me, ma'am. There will be a share screen option down, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks. Yes. Just let me know once I share my screen whether you're able to see. Can you see? Is that seen, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I put it in the slideshow. Now? All right. Okay. Now,
Yes.
as you request. Yes? Okay. Now, all of you please mute yourself so that it doesn't echo. Okay. Now, as you requested, you wanted tracks, descending and ascending tracks. So today we will be looking into a bit into the spinal cord, not in detail, because you will be learning about the structure in detail in anatomy. Okay, so just a bit into the spinal cord and then a descending tract in detail. So yes, so usually I give you something like a case so that you can analyze what you know about the topic. So there is a 45-year-old male who is a known hypertensive and a diabetic as well, who complained suddenly of giddiness. And a few hours later, his relatives found him unconscious. And he was suddenly lying floppy in the bed, not responding to the call and not moving any of his limbs on one side. So what it could be? Any of you? What could it be? Hello. Please interact, ma. It's okay. You have to learn by making mistakes. Okay. So that's okay. You just say whatever you want to say. One of you unmute and tell me. Otherwise, it will be like I'm speaking to the screen. I just want you to interact. It's okay if you make mistakes. Just treat me as your friend and just that's a way you can learn and remember. What it could be? Just say something. Have you seen anybody walking, or in the wheelchair, or who is not able to move one side of the limb, one side of the body, the limbs on one side of the body? Have you seen some patients and what do you think of them? What do you call them actually? It can be a
paralysis, yes? Ma'am.
Paralysis, good. Who did I hear now? Who's that?
Veda Vaishika.
Okay. And do you know the medical term for that, ma?
Plegia.
What is it? If one side of the
Plegia.
body is not functioning, if one side of the body is not functioning, what do we call it?
Hemiplegia, ma'am.
Hemiplegia.
Hemiplegia, ma'am.
Was it Arvind who spoke? Who spoke
Yes,
now?
ma'am.
Okay, Arvind, that's Akash. Yes, Akash, it's correct. Hemiplegia. So medically, we call it as hemiplegia. Colloquially, people will call it as paralysis of one side of the body. All right. So why does this happen? Why suddenly some person should lose his movements and functions on one side of the body? Where could in the body, what could have gone wrong? Okay. So that is how any subject when you're learning in medicine, you should not mug it up. All right. You should always associate it to a patient or to any condition, any scenario, and then learn. That would be better for you to remember long term. If we are, we are used to mugging up, especially with the state board. I'm not belittling any system, but it's like that, isn't it? We usually mug up things and that makes it easier. History and geography, it's okay, but with medicine, we have to analyze and learn. Only then you can, it's like an integrated system. Now this has to be in your mind till your final year and in your internship and even later than that for your PG entrance. So when you have to remember things so long, you have to understand and read everything, all right? So you always correlate it and learn. So this is hemiplegia, meaning one side of the body is not functioning, okay? So where could the problem be? Where could the problem be? What do you think? Where could it be? Okay, when you have to move your muscles, ma'am, anything, you are taking your, you want to drink water, you're holding a tumbler and drinking it. You want to write, you want to draw something, you want to go for a walk or you're jogging, all involves movements of your muscles, right? What muscles are they, ma'am? Skeletal, smooth. Muscles are of 3 types, right? Skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, cardiac muscle. So when you're doing any movement, what are those muscles called? Is Vinodini a student here? Vinodini, can I hear from you? I'm telling you, make mistakes. Only then you will. It's okay. Yes, Guru. I can see some names. I'm just calling random names. One of you can unmute and tell me. What are those muscles, ma'am? It's okay if you make mistakes. Repeatedly, I'm saying I'm not going to judge you here. All right?
Skeletal muscles, ma'am.
Very good. Was it Sweta?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. That's skeletal muscles. What do you mean by skeletal muscles? All over the body, you have skeletal muscles, right? Which are responsible for your movement. Okay. And where do you have cardiac muscle? Quickly, if you answer, we can go fast.
Heart, ma'am.
Heart, correct. And then where do you have smooth muscle? Like,
Involuntary muscles, ma'am.
yes. Where
In
do
the
you
blood vessels.
only blood vessels, ma'am?
Organs, ma'am.
Yes, all your internal organs are smooth muscles, right? So that is how it is. Okay, so skeletal muscles on your own, if you want to walk, immediately it will walk. If supposing you're sitting and doing something, okay, suddenly you will just go to the shop and buy bread, or if your mom says go buy bread and come, you will go. You need a command, right? Yes. Somebody has to tell you to go buy and come. Your mom says, then you go to the shop. Like that, somebody has to tell that skeletal muscle to contract. How suddenly when you're sitting, you will walk. How suddenly you will draw. Because there's a command from somewhere, right? Yes. So where does the command come from?
The nervous system.
Nervous system. The nervous system is it's smooth, right? Somebody has to mute their music. All right. So nervous system means it's vast. You have a central nervous system.
Central nervous system, ma'am.
Okay. We know what is central nervous system. We know there's it. All over the body you have nerves. What could be central nervous system?
Brain and spinal cord.
Excellent. Brain and spinal cord. So where do you think the command to these skeletal muscles come from? We are going from almost basics. Okay. I will not jump directly to the descending track. First of all, you have to understand the basics. Only then you will understand better. Okay. So if you have to walk, if you have to jog, if you have to drink water, if you want to write, okay, so somebody is commanding you to do that. So where does that command come from? Your central nervous system. So first, initially, the command will come from your cortex, okay, from the brain, cerebral cortex. All right. From there, it comes to the spinal cord. So if you want to walk, you know, the to and fro movements of the walking, that is mainly with the neuronal circuits lie in the spinal cord. All right, because you can't put both the legs in front and both the legs behind, isn't it? One leg has to be in front, one leg has to be behind. So your flexors, when you're flexing the leg, flexors have to act, and the antagonist muscle has to be inhibited. So agonist and antagonist, there should be a coordination between the right and the left leg. There should be a coordination. So all these coordinations will happen in the spinal cord. There are you can't imagine when you see inside a computer how much you see that wiring system. Much more complicated than that. We have the wiring system in our body, in the brain, in the spinal cord, everywhere. Okay, so this interneuronal connections is an extensive network of the interneuronal connections in the spinal cord. But then that is the effector. Only from there, if your muscle gets a stimulus, it will contract. Okay, so it has to come from the spinal cord. But then, so without the spinal cord, you cannot walk, you cannot do anything. Is that all? So only spinal cord is needed. See, if supposing you're listening to music, okay, you have somebody playing on the guitar, somebody singing, somebody doing other musical instruments on the keyboard. But if everybody starts doing, will it be orchestrated? Will it be rhythmic? You have seen somebody orchestrating the entire thing? Have you seen somebody in the music, live music shows? Have you seen? So like that, somebody has to orchestrate all this to happen in a sequence, right? Once the singer is stopping, then the music has to come. So somebody is showing their hands like this and doing that, right? Like that. There has to be a central command which has to come to the spinal cord to do the correct movement. Okay, so where does this correct command come from? From the Yoga Lakshmi. You can see your name here. Yes, Lakshmi, can you tell me? The command has to come from, I'm asking you very simple questions, and if you make mistakes, no problem. I'm not going to be judgmental about anyone here. You're all like my friends only, all right? Together we will learn. Yes, ma'am, where does the command come from? You know the brain, there's something, because I'm not able to see you, right? So it's very difficult. I'm not knowing whether you're understood or, so you have to interact in between, at least say one yes or no, okay? So from the cortex, you know the brain, isn't it? The cerebral cortex. And what else do you know in the brain? What are the other parts you know in the brain?
Ma'am, cerebellum is needed, ma'am.
Okay, cerebellum. Do you know any other gross areas of the brain? All right, did you go through central nervous system before lockdown? I mean, where the classes held, or you had anatomy? No, not it? Shweta? Shweta, I'm asking a question.
No, ma'am.
Okay, even if it is yes, it doesn't matter. It's a long time, you could have forgotten also, but that's okay. All right, so you know at least grossly you have a big brain that is called cerebral cortex, right? And then lower down, continue. I am not partial.
Diencephalon.
No.
Diencephalon.
No, all that classification I don't need. I'm just saying, just tell me some parts of the brain, like cerebral cortex, cerebellum, she said, like that. You know, cortex continues as
Pons, medulla.
All right, tell it in order.
Cerebellum, pons, medulla,
on the
ma'am.
side of the brainstem. After the cortex, it continues as what?
Midbrain, ma'am.
Good, midbrain. Then
Pons and medulla.
very good. So there's a brainstem. Okay, you have a cortex. I wish I'm in front of you so that I'm just showing my hands. I don't know whether you're seeing. There's a cortex, and then it continues as the brainstem. That brainstem uppermost is the midbrain. Then you have the pons. Then you have the medulla. Then the medulla will continue as what?
Spinal cord, ma'am.
Very good. Spinal cord. Spinal cord goes up to where, ma? Up to which level?
L1, ma'am.
L1, ma'am.
Up to the lumbar vertebra, right? So now you have a gross idea. So we have a cerebral cortex, a big brain. Then you have a brainstem. Cerebellum is actually attached on either side of the brainstem. It's called as a little brain. Okay. In the cortex, you have so many areas, right? You have thalamus, hypothalamus, all right, basal ganglia. There are so many areas of the brain, and each area of the brain has a specific function. And it will not only do that specific function, it will also do, like if your daddy is going to office, your mom is a housewife and cooking at home. It's not that only she will do cooking, okay? She can also assist you in reading. Dad can go outside to buy something, like that. Interconnected, right? So they have a specific function, and they also help each other in many other functions. They are interconnected, all right? Okay, so this cortex and then the brainstem, because at least when I'm telling you the course of the tract, you should be knowing the parts of the brain at least. Okay, so you have a big cerebral cortex, then it continues as the brainstem where you have the midbrain, then lower down pons, then continues as the medulla continues as a spinal cord. All right, so with this briefing, we'll move on to the topic. So the objectives for your session today will be, you should be able to, at the end of the session, when I'm finishing up, you should be able to enumerate what are the descending tracts. First of all, you should know what is a descending tract and what is an ascending tract. Okay, today's class is basically, so today's session is about descending tract. So we will learn about descending tracts in detail. Then the main tract is called pyramidal tract or corticospinal tract. So we will be knowing about or learning about the origin, the course, the termination, and functions of this tract. Is a very, very important question for your university, all right? So never omit learning this. And one more thing, though I'm saying it's an important question, like your +2 blueprint, don't always go in your medicine by questions, learning by questions, all right? You should be knowing everything. And you should be knowing the more common things more specifically or well versed with that. But you should have an idea of everything. You don't pick up questions or don't omit certain topics. This is very, very important topic, okay? And this is the main tract, which is called as pyramidal tract. There are accessory tracts also, which also help in the motor function. So they are called as extrapyramidal tracts. And then this corticospinal tract, if it gets cut off, what will be happening in the body? Like we saw a case now, right? That's hemiplegia, you said. So what will happen in that patient? We will just learn what is needed for you at this level for the first years, okay? Then as you go higher up with each year, when you go to the clinical side, there'll be something still more in depth you will learn. But for now, physiology is vast, biochemistry is vast, anatomy is vast. So what is needed for you right now in the first year, you should know. All right. So a bit about the spinal cord. It's been the spinal cord. This is the spinal cord. Okay, enclosed inside the bony vertebral column. Okay, so you have some cervical segments, then you have the thoracic segments. Okay, you can see the cervical segment is a little bigger, right? Thicker. You have the cervical enlargement. And then you have the thoracic segment. Then you have the lumbar segment. Okay, then finally sacral. In the lumbar and in the cervical, it is a little thicker because from here you have nerves going out to your upper limbs, and from here you have nerves going out to the lower limbs. Okay. And finally, this is called as the cauda equina, the nerve roots. Okay, and this is covered by 3 sheets. Okay, what are those, ma? Hemant, can I hear from you? What are the sheets covering the spinal cord? Yes, ma. Arvind. Anybody? I can't hear you.
Dura, arachnoid, and
Dura, arachnoid, and
pyometer.
pyometer.
Okay, right. Dura, arachnoid, and pyometer. Which is the innermost covering?
Pyometer.
Pyometer. Yeah. And in between the pyometer and the arachnoid matter, what is its space called?
Subarachnoid space.
Very good. Excellent. Subarachnoid space, which will be filled with your CS. All right? Yes. Yes. Okay. Now, quickly we will go through. Okay. If you know about the spinal cord, I can just go through faster because we have to learn about the tracks in detail. This is just because some might not be might have forgotten. So we'll just rush through this. So it's a grayish white, neural tract, which is cylindrical in shape. The length is approximately 45 centimeters, a little less. It can be 43 centimeters in females, 45 centimeters in males, and begins with the foramen magnum. That's the lower level of the base of the brain. From there, lower level of the medulla. From there, it extends straight down, okay, and up to the lumbar vertebra, the first lumbar vertebra. So On top, above the spinal cord, it's the medulla. It's a continuation of the medulla and ends at the lower border of the L1 vertebra, surrounded by pia mater, arachnoid mater, and dura mater. And you have how many pairs of spinal nerves? This all can be, I don't know whether you have your pattern, you have MCQs, or they can ask you in Viva also, or in a 1 mark, 2 marks question, whichever you have in your system. Okay, so there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Pair means this side, right and left, right? So at each segmental level, like, you know, C5 level, it comes. It will go to the hand muscles, C5, C6, C7. It'll go to biceps, triceps, like that, okay, to the hand muscles. So from the cervical, it will go to the upper limbs. From the lumbar, it will go to the lower limbs. So you have 31 pairs of spinal nerves. And the end of that is called as spinal filum terminae. So the posterior root, meaning dorsal. Posterior means the dorsal side or the posterior side. Anterior is ventral and posterior is dorsal. So there is one law. Anybody here who can tell me that law which governs that some nerves will enter through only some...
Is it Bell-Magendy's doctrine, ma'am?
Very good. Who said that?
Aravind, ma'am.
Arvind. Okay, I'm noting down all your, I mean, in my mind. Okay, who is answering well? At the end, I'll get you some reward. Somehow, I'll see that it reaches you. All right? Okay. I see Arvind and Shweta answering more now. So the rest of you just try to make some, whatever, you just open your mouth and say, because sometimes you lose, you might know and you might not say it. All right? Okay, so the Bell-Magendy law, what does it say, Arvind? Do you know
From
what
the, I guess it's the sensory root pass via the dorsal root ganglion, and the motor roots come out via the ventral roots.
Very good. That's good. Okay, so always sensory. What do you mean by sensory nerves, ma? Afferent or efferent? A or E?
Yeah, ma'am, afferent.
Efferent.
Yes, afferents. So what I mean by that is they will carry info from all parts of your body to the brain. Because you see, supposing sometimes you're touching something hot, okay? There is a lamp there. By mistake, you have put your hand in fire. You just keep enjoying that fire, or what do you do immediately? What do you do immediately?
Withdraw the hand.
Immediately withdraw the finger, yes? Before even you think what you have done, your finger is withdrawn. So in that fraction of a second, your receptors, wherever, if supposing in your foot, you're just pressing over a thorn or a bottle piece, immediately you withdraw, isn't it? So that if it is over a thorn, it's going to be the pain receptors that are going to get activated. If it's over fire, that's the thermoreceptors that are going to. So you have all types of receptors all over your body. Receptors means they are just transducers, they're just nerve endings or transducers which can convert one form of energy into another. See, if supposing you're touching something hot, through your nerves to your brain, it cannot be going as a hot sensation, right? Hot, it cannot go to the brain. And one more thing I forgot to tell you, if in case there are any Tamil medium students here, or you want me to tell bilingual in Tamil also, I can always do that. Wherever it is important, I can tell it again in Tamil for better understanding. Again, don't feel inhibited that you know how to ask anytime. It's your mother tongue, it's your native language. You can ask. If you want me to brief in Tamil, I will also do that. All right. We can make it up fast. Okay. Or you want me to slow down, please unmute and tell me. Okay. So supposing there's something that is hot or painful, it has to be carried to your brain. Only then your brain can decide what to do. You don't keep on enjoying your finger in the fire, is it? Immediately withdraw. So at that speed, the receptors will sense that it is hot. Then the nerve roots, the sensory nerves from your finger, it goes all the way to your spinal cord at the cervical level as an electrical signal. So this heat sensation is converted by the receptor into a action potential or an electrical signal. This will be conveyed through your sensory nerve. It goes to your spinal cord. Now it has to enter into your spinal cord, right? So it always sensory nerve will enter through your posterior part of the spinal cord, dorsal root. That is the law. It can never break. Sensory means it will always enter through the posterior side of the spinal cord. And once it enters into the spinal cord, now information will go to your brain. It gets decoded in the brain, and then it's going to sense that you're touching something hot. So the brain centers will integrate quickly what action to do. If you put your right finger into the fire, you're not going to pull out your left finger, isn't it? Of your left hand. So if you want to pull out your left hand finger, then it has to say, give command to your finger of the left hand to contract and pull it out. You cannot go further in that direction. You have to go in the opposite direction. So that's going to happen, right? All these sequence of events, you know at what rate it happens, just like this. You put your finger and immediately you withdraw, right? So at that space, the entire thing, the sensory goes to the brain, and then the command comes from the brain, and your finger muscles contract and you withdraw. So that speed of transmission of the impulses occur. Okay, so always the sensory information will enter through your spinal cord on the posterior side, and the command from the brain comes to your spinal cord again, and brain in the sense the cerebral cortex comes to your spinal cord, and from there it goes to the concerned muscles to make it contract. Whatever command is coming out of the spinal cord will come out through the anterior side, and that is called as a motor nerve. What is coming, taking information behind through the dorsal side is a sensory nerve or afferent nerve. What is coming out is efferent or EFF, efferent or motor nerve. All right. So now spinal cord, basically the functions are to conduct this motor and sensory, because sensory impulses will enter the spinal cord and go up to the brain. Motor impulses will reach the spinal cord from above, command from the brain to the spinal cord. From there, it will leave the spinal cord and go to the muscle. So spinal cord sort of integrates all these impulses up and down. All right. So it conducts motor and sensory impulses between the periphery and the center. Center, you mean the cortex. Okay. And so it acts as a center for also various reflexes, meaning you have some reflexes called superficial reflexes. Now CNS is very, very vast. So some areas I will not be able to, if I go on to describe these reflexes, then it'll take a long time. We've not even gone into the topic now. So I assume you know what is a reflex. Okay. Reflexes, what do you mean by a reflex? I'm throwing something at you, immediately you withdraw, isn't it? So involuntary response. Okay. So like that, you have reflexes occurring in your body, and it can be classified as superficial reflex and deep reflexes. So those integration all happens in the spinal cord. So the spinal cord serves as a center for various reflexes, and it modifies the perception of pain. So when we learn about the pain pathway, I will tell you what it is. We have some gate control theory and all that. And it controls the autonomic nervous system. So you only saw sensory coming through the back and motor going through the front, that is the ventral. But on the lateral horn, you have some nerves coming, that is called as autonomic nervous system. What are the parts of the autonomic nervous system? Two components, can you tell me?
Sympathetic and
Sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Sympathetic and parasympathetic. They do the opposite actions. There is always a balance between the both. Supposing parasympathetic nerve will slow down your heart, sympathetic will increase your heart functions. So, and at rest, always there's a balance between both. And whenever, if you need an increase in your heart rate or increase in your BP, only sympathetic will get activated. When you want to slow down, and parasympathetic will get activated, like that. All right. So that nerves will come from your lateral horn. Okay. Now there is an anterior and a posterior. Fissure, you mean just a dip. Okay, a cut here. And if it's very deeper, you call it as a sulcus. You understand what is fissure and sulcus? You have a cut here in between. So this is the anterior median fissure, and if it goes deeper, it is called sulcus. Okay. And you have in the spinal cord white matter outside and gray matter inside. So this white matter here will contain all the nerve fibers, okay, and blood vessels. And this gray matter will contain all the nuclei, okay. And the neurons are the cell bodies of the neurons. This white column, we divide it into anterior white column, lateral white column, because all this, why I'm saying now is, when we are reading tracks, when I say it goes through this white column, it goes through this column, you should know where it is. Okay, this is anterior white column, lateral white column, posterior white column. And this is gray horn, okay. Same way, anterior gray horn, lateral gray horn, and posterior gray horn. So the afferent nerves will enter through the posterior root, and the afferent will enter through the posterior, and the efferent or motor will exit through the anterior. Okay. Okay. So the gray matter, I already told you, there's a head-shaped one. Okay, inner gray matter, outer white matter. In the brain, it is ulta. Okay. So from the anterior horn, you have some cells called motor neurons. Okay. Anterior horn, you have the motor nerves coming. So the cell bodies of the nerves are called as motor neurons. Again, you have two types of motor neurons, alpha motor neuron and gamma motor neuron. And you have some cells which are called as Renshaw cells. Also, they are close to them. I'll tell you what it is for. And then you have in the lateral horn, you have the sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers. And in the posterior horn, you have the nuclei for the nerves, the sensory nerves. All this you will come when we are learning about the ascending tracts. Okay, now you may think what it is, but now just know some nuclei are there. You will know about it when you're learning about the ascending tracts. Okay, now we come to the topic proper. The spinal cord briefing is over. So what is the descending tract? What do you mean by descending tract? Which is coming down from the brain or which is going to the brain?
Coming down.
Coming down from the
Coming
brain,
down
ma'am.
from the brain. So please remember, even in the Viva, supposing they are asking you name some descending tract, some students will say spinothalamic. Okay, from the spine when it is going towards the brain, it will be ascending. Simple. When it is starting from cortex, then it is a descending. It's starting from the brain, coming down towards your spinal cord or brain stem, whatever. So corticospinal. Okay, like that. When you talk from above below, it is a descending tract. It's very simple. So this is the main tract is called pyramidal tract. Okay, and it contains two components, corticospinal and corticobulbar. This is for the entire body and this is for the cranial nerves, okay, which supplies the face and the head. And the extrapyramidal system, you mean whatever areas in the brain and the tracts in the brain and the spinal cord up to the spinal cord, which are also involved in motor control. For example, when you're doing any movement, you want to write, okay, or you want to draw. Okay, you want to draw your anatomy record. You need that fine skill, isn't it? Where you're putting all the nerves and arteries. So that fine skill will be only be done if the corticospinal tract is intact. Okay, this is responsible for your fine skilled movements. Nevertheless, it is controlling your distal fingers and hands, everything, distal part of the body. But then you just stand like a robot and you can just draw. You have to flex your wrist and elbow, and you have to have some shoulder movements accordingly. You hear?
Ma'am, there is a share option below.
No, that's what it says. Host has disabled the screen sharing. Whoever has to allow me to share.
Oh, okay, ma'am. I will tell the host.
Yeah. ஒரு லிங்க் Vinod, I'm still not able to share my screen. Vinod? Vinod, are you here?
Yes, ma'am. Wait a minute, ma'am. Host is
Alright, let me
arranging.
know. No problem, no problem. I'll wait. You just let me know, okay? You tell me, then I will. Yes, okay.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am,
Okay.
ma'am, you can start now sharing your screen, ma'am.
Yes, yes, yeah. Do you see my screen? Do you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So we were, I'm sorry. So we were just beginning with the pyramidal tract, right? Okay. Now we lost some time in between. Is it okay for all of you to stay that extended time? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't hear anybody. That's fine. All right. Okay.
Yes,
I will.
ma'am.
Okay, I'll try to condense and teach you. In case you have any doubts, you can catch up with that. Okay, so the pyramidal tract is, you have two tracts, corticospinal tract and corticobulbar tract. So the corticospinal tract extends from the cerebral cortex up to the spinal cord. Corticobulbar is the cranial nerves, okay? The tract that involves the cranial nerves. Then you have extrapyramidal tracts, which are nothing but the other areas of the brain. You have collateral tracts, which also run from that particular area to the spinal cord, which are also involved in motor function. Okay, this is that's what we were talking, right? If it's going to be, supposing you're going to draw or write, you need the corticospinal tract mainly because your fingers have to be controlled by this fine skilled movements will be controlled by the corticospinal tract. But then you're not just going to stand like a robot and only do like this, isn't it? You bend forward, you flex your wrist or your elbow. Accordingly, when you're drawing, you do so many movements. So according to the attitude of your body, the position of your body, the other joints, major joints will also have to change, isn't it? So all that also has to be brought about. So these all will coordinate to bring about the entire position from in the body to make that whatever skilled movement you want to do. Okay. So these are called as extrapyramidal tracts. Okay. This is the main tract. There are all smaller tracts which extend from the other parts of the brain up to the spinal cord and help in regulating the motor functions. Motor functions, you mean the control of motor activity, which is nothing but contraction of the muscles to make any movement. All right. Okay, so this is the cerebral cortex. So you know what is this called? My one line here. What sulcus is that?
Central sulcus.
Very good. In the center of the brain, there is a sulcus which is called a central sulcus. Okay. So whichever area in front is called precentral. Whatever area behind is called postcentral, right? Pre means in front, post means behind. So this is the central sulcus. I've already told you, sulcus means a deeper. You know, the brain has sulci and gyri. So sulci means the involutions are called sulci, where the elevations are called as gyri. In the center, you have the central sulcus, and in front, what lobe is this, ma? What lobe is this? What is this lobe?
Frontal lobe.
Frontal.
Yes. Behind you have the occipital lobe, and then the parietal lobe, temporal lobe, right? So in front of the sulcus, in front of the central sulcus, in the frontal lobe, the entire thing is frontal lobe. So possibly behind the posterior 1/3 of the frontal lobe, you have this main motor cortex. Okay, not in front. This prefrontal cortex has something to do, which is very interesting. If in case you want to know about the cerebral cortex, then we will learn about later. Okay, all your behaviors, your judgment, all that lies here. Okay, so it's nothing like called the heart. When you have a Valentine's Day, you put like hearts and say your thoughts are coming from there. Actually, it's all from here. Okay, it's the prefrontal lobe. So if you lose this, then we will become all the social behaviors and judgment, everything will go off. So that's the prefrontal lobe. Behind that, you have mainly the motor cortex. So you know each part of the brain, still there is a lot which is unexplored. Whatever, whenever they explored a part of the brain doing the function, specific function, they have named it and also numbered it. Okay, you know what is the number classification? Who numbered it? What classification is that?
Brodmann's classification.
Brodmann.
Yes, Brodmann's. So for this area, there is one number that is given. The area in front is one number. Here, there's one number, right? And so how did they earlier they find that this part of the brain is involved with this? If this part of the brain is cut off, what function in the body will be lost? How did they do? They, during operations, when they're doing in the neurosurgical operations on the brain, they used to stimulate, or in animals, they would cut off some part of the brain, a little slicing off, and then they will see what function is lost, or they will stimulate something and see what's happening. Like that only they explored what function, I mean, which area of the brain is specific for what function. So now we know most of the functions. So now here, this is the central sulcus, this is the precentral gyrus, and that area is called as primary motor cortex, which is the primary main area for the motor cortex. Okay, so from there only signals will come down through your brainstem and go to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord it will go to the muscles. This is the primary motor cortex, and this is the, I will sort of little speed up. If you want me to slow down, you please let me know. So this is the primary motor cortex. This is the supplementary motor cortex. Okay, in front of the primary motor, you have here premotor and then supplementary motor. So primary motor, premotor, supplementary motor, all are involved in the motor functions. Okay, and behind this part is called the sensory cortex. All your sensations, heat or cold or pain, all will come up and end here. Okay, but the sensory cortex will also give inputs to the, because when something you're touching hot, it comes to the sensory cortex. This only will decode that, okay, something hot is being touched. You have to act immediately and withdraw the finger. So this will give information here. So these are also connected. So your pyramidal tract, some fibers will start from the sensory cortex as well. So this is the area totally you have to concentrate for the origin of the motor tract or pyramidal tract. All right. Okay. So this is nothing but the area of the brain. They have specified which functions. The primary motor cortex, premotor and supplementary motor cortex. So in that part of the brain, which is involved with the motor function, each and every bit is corresponding to one area of your body. That is, if supposing, for example, I will show you here. See this, if you cut the brain into half like this, okay, straight, then it is going to dip in the center, isn't it? So on one side, right side and left side. So on one side here, this bit of this primary motor cortex will extend fully. So this bit will be for some part of your body. Here it will be for some part. The lower down, this area of the primary motor cortex will be for some part like that. Okay. So that is called as topographical representation of the body. Okay. Topographical means which area of the body is represented in which part of the brain in the motor cortex. So that is called as motor homunculus. Okay, it's nothing but the representation of the body in the motor cortex. It's called as motor homunculus. So you can see now this is the cut surface of the brain. So in the side of the brain, okay, it's mainly the face, and above it is the hands. So in this large strip, you can see this much, more than 50% is only covering the hands and the face. And this only this much is covered for the entire body, the trunk and then the lower limbs. Okay, so only smaller strip for the entire body and so much for your hand and face. Why? Because day in and day out, what do you use maximum? It's going to be any moment you need your hand, right? And the whole day you're speaking, you need your, or eating or drinking, you need this part of the body to act more, isn't it? The muscles of the face to act more. That is why there's a larger area of representation. Supposing somebody has met with an accident, they have got their hand cut off, okay? Then this is not going to be so. Now they can develop an ability to use their legs more. They can paint with their legs. So the leg will occupy a larger part and this will be reduced. Okay, it's like that. That's called as plasticity. The brain can accommodate itself like that. Okay, understood? Okay, so that is called as motor homunculus. A major part of the motor cortex or sensory also it is representation will be for your hand and for your face. See, even in the face, see which is having more? Which is having more representation there? Your tongue and the lips, this area, because anything that you're going to do through the day, speaking, all that activities will be involving only these muscles. And whatever you're doing, work will be involving these muscles, right? So these have a larger area of representation in the brain. All right. That is God's design. If you understand physiology in depth, it will be very interesting, because the small part, see, if supposing there's a lesion there, then a larger area of that part will be affected. So if supposing there's one lesion here, the entire finger hand is not going to get affected. Only one small part of this finger is going to get affected. So he has given a large area of representation for the hands and the face. So now coming to the tract, you have to write how you have to present your answer is origin, course, termination, functions, applied. This is how this is an essay question. So how you have to write is the origin, then the course with the diagram, then where does the tract terminate, then the functions, and then the applied aspect. Okay. So site of origin is, I showed you now, no, primary motor cortex, just before the central sulcus. So from there 30%, premotor area in front of the primary motor 30%, and somatosensory cortex 40%. So from this area 30% of fibers. For example, if you get 1000 fibers, okay, 1/3 will be from here, 1/3 of the fibers will be from here, and 30% from here, 30% from here, and 40% of the fibers will come down. All of them together will form a compact bundle. They're just very fine thread, like you see in the nerves and dissection, right? So all of them will get compact into a compact bundle and descend down as a descending track. Okay, so 30% from, please put it in your minds, 30% from primary motor area just before the central sulcus, and in front you have the premotor area, 30% from there, and behind the central sulcus you have the sensory cortex, 40% of fibers will come from there. So totally you think it's hundreds or thousands? How much can be in the pyramidal tract? Shruti, Vinod, somebody? Just make a guess quickly. We've lost time, so I'm a little faster. Yes, ma? Shruti, Vinod, Arunan, Raji. I saw so many names. Satya. Anybody? Nobody? Just make a guess. How many fibers can be in that bundle of the pyramidal tract coming down? Hundreds, thousands, lakhs? No guess? You don't want to make a guess?
More than thousands.
No, ma. Thousands is very little. It's 1 million fibers, okay? So you can't even imagine. That's how it is. Wherever you take alveoli, it will be in millions. If you take, nephrons, there'll be millions. You see, it's a small organ, but such minute packing God has done. Okay, when you go higher up, you go to the OT and all, you will be amazed to see when they open the abdomen how nicely that 6 meter long intestine is packed. So like that, it's actually millions of fibers. So in the millions of fibers, 30% of fibers from primary motor, 30% of fibers will come from premotor, and 40% of fibers will come from the sensory cortex. All right, this is the origin of the tract. And if supposing it's coming from the tract, from that area of the brain, histologically, this is gross, we are saying, grossly from this area, okay? Histologically, when you cut that and see under the microscope, they are made up of different types of cells, okay? You have some 6 layers of cells. So most of these pyramidal, the motor tract fibers will originate from the layer 5 of the cortex, okay? We're not going into the depth because we have much more to learn. So just know that histologically you have 6 layers of the cortex cell-wise, and 97% of these fibers will originate from the layer 5, and 3% of them originate from cells called Betz cells, okay? They're nothing but giant cells, okay? Giant cells means the cell size is much bigger than the other cells from which the other nerve fibers originate, and this alone will transmit, the nerve fibers will also be bigger, and they will transmit or conduct impulses at a very fast rate. Otherwise, majority of the fibers will be conducting slowly, but these fibers will conduct at a very higher speed, like 70 meters per second, like that. At that speed it will conduct. So we know the course. Now we are going to come to the, we saw the origin, we are coming to the course. So now this is the strip of the brain, the primary motor, premotor cortex in the brain. From there, all the fibers, the arrow should be actually downwards. It's marked like this, but you just imagine coming downwards, okay? So all the fibers will come down from the right and left side. It will come on the same side. When it comes down, all the fibers from that whole clip of the, and when it enters a structure called internal capsule below, you can see this internal capsule, okay? This is called anterior V-shaped structure below. It's called as internal capsule. This is the anterior limb. The bend is called genu, and this is called the posterior limb. So this will all accommodate itself into a compact bundle and get through the internal capsule. Okay, and this fan-shaped, the fibers coming down together like a fan, hand fan. This is called as corona radiata. So they descend via the corona radiata. They converge into a compact bundle and then they pass through the internal capsule. Where in the internal capsule they occupy the bend and the anterior 2/3 of the posterior limb. You can see this white part marked white. So that bend and the anterior 2/3 of the posterior limb. So this is occupied by the pyramidal tract. So they will descend via this part and then come down. So when you come down, what do you have? You have the midbrain. It's going to descend downwards. You have the midbrain, pons, medulla, and then only it can enter into the spinal cord. So in the midbrain, where does it occupy? So this is the cut section of the midbrain. Here you have the cerebral peduncles in the midbrain. It will occupy the middle 3/5. That means if you take the whole part as a 5 into 5, the medial 1/5 and the lateral 1/5 are occupied by some other fibers, the pontofrontine, temporopontine fibers. They're going to some other parts of the brain, because in brain, everything will be crossing this side, that side. So we are only now learning about the descending tract. So it's going as a compact bundle. And where is it occupying? The middle 3/5 of the cerebral peduncle, which is this part, midbrain. The whole thing is called brainstem. Topmost is the midbrain, then you have the pons, then you have the medulla. Okay. So then where does it have to come to? It has to come through the pons. From the midbrain, it gets down the pons. Here in the pons, there are some fibers that are coming in between. When those fibers are coming, some other fibers are coming, crossing in between. So they are broken into discrete bundles. That million fibers are not coming together now. In the pons, they will get broken into discrete bundles here and there. In between, some other fibers are interrupting them. Okay. So in the pons, they are broken down into discrete bundles. And then again, when they come down, the next layer is the medulla, isn't it? So when they come down into the medulla, all this will again unite together into a compact bundle. Okay. When they again unite, they'll form an elevation there in the medulla, just a elevation there. So that is called as a pyramid. Okay. And that is why this is called as the pyramidal tract. Got it? This corticospinal tract, which is extending from the cortex to the spine, is otherwise called as the pyramidal tract, because when the broken down bundles again unite, they form just an elevation here in the medulla, okay, which is the shape of a pyramid, and that's called as a pyramid, and so it's called as a pyramidal tract. Okay. And after it comes down at the lower part of the medulla, 80% of this bundle fibers will cross to the opposite side. Now on the right side, you have a bundle coming, and the left side, you have a bundle coming. Now 80% of each side will cross to the opposite side and occupy. Now lower than the medulla, it is a spinal cord. So you have the lateral white column. So it's going to occupy the lateral white column of the spinal cord and continue down in the spinal cord. So that is called as a lateral corticospinal tract. All right. The 20% of fibers will just go down in the front, in the anterior, in the ventral part of the spinal cord, and that is called as a ventral corticospinal tract. Am I clear so far? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is the lateral corticospinal tract. After crossing over in the medulla, it has gone to the opposite side, and that's the lateral corticospinal tract, which will occupy the lateral part of the spinal cord, and 20% of fibers which go in the ventral part of the spinal cord is called the ventral corticospinal tract. They will go down in the spinal cord, and from there, if supposing it is going out in the thoracic level, it will go out to the trunk. In the cervical level, from there the nerves will go to the upper limb. In the lower level lumbar, it will go to the lower limbs. Okay, so from there nerve fibers will go to each part of the body. All right, so that is about the tract. So we quickly run through. It starts from the primary cortex, motor cortex, and supplementary motor cortex. It, like a hand fan, it will descend down all the fibers. This is called as corona radiata. Then it's arranged into a compact bundle and occupies the bend, that is the genu and the posterior limb, anterior 2/3. So the genu and the anterior 2/3 of the posterior limb. Then it descends down further, and in the midbrain, it occupies the cerebral peduncle, the middle 3/5, not the medial and the lateral 1/5. So middle 3/5 it occupies. Then it descends down further. In the pons, there are some fibers intervening, so it is broken into bundles. And then further down, when it comes, it again reorganizes into a compact bundle that forms an elevation, and that's called as the pyramid, and hence the name pyramidal tract. And after the lower part of the medulla, the lower end of the medulla, 80% of this bundle fibers will go to the opposite side. So right will go to the left and left will go to the right. Okay. And then 20% of fibers will go to the same side. And this will, crossing over fibers will occupy the lateral white column, and hence the name lateral corticospinal tract. 20% fibers occupy the ventral white column in the front, and hence the name ventral corticospinal tract. The ventral corticospinal tract up to the thoracic level it will go, and from there it goes off to the up to the chest. Okay. Then what is descending will be the other fibers. Again, this ventral corticospinal tract also, it will go there at each level. When it's going to that particular spinal segment, most of the fibers will cross over to the opposite side, and some will be there on the same side. There's a reason to this, I will tell you. Okay. So now this is just a schematic diagram you can draw. Okay. So cortex, internal capsule, then midbrain, then pons, medulla, spinal cord. You can see how it is coming here. The medulla, it will cross over and occupy the spinal cord. From the spinal cord, it will go out to the body. So that is about the pyramidal tract. Now quickly we will run through the accessory tracts. Okay, corticobulbar tract means, or corticonuclear tract, the tracts that originate from the motor cortex, and they will terminate in the cranial nerves. The cranial nerves will have their nuclei in the midbrain, pons, medulla itself, in the brainstem. Okay, so it will go from the motor cortex to the up to the brainstem only. Okay, and from there it will go to the corresponding muscles that it supplies. Okay, of the face. So descends along with the pyramidal tract, and it will synapse with the cranial nerve nuclei. We'll show you that. So the functions of corticospinal tract is the ventral corticospinal tract, that which I showed you, that 20% of fibers, they control gross movements like walking, climbing. You just have to put your foot there or put your hand together there. But when you draw, when you write, you have to make one very fine skilled movements. So that is mainly by the lateral corticospinal tract. So just remember, ventral tract is for gross movements and lateral tract is for fine movements. And this is not only with movements, because it controls the muscles, it helps your muscle tone. What do you mean by muscle tone is, I think the class is already over last time. What is muscle tone? The state of, yes?
A partial state of contraction of.
Very good. Partial contraction of, contraction of your muscle. It's not fully contracted, but always you are sitting up because of your muscle tone, and all your muscles are not flabby hanging, right? That's because of the muscle tone. Always your muscle will be in a state of partial contraction. So for that contraction, you need input from above. So this tract, corticospinal tract, will facilitate the reflexes and the muscle tone. All right. I usually give a break to my kids, because continuously if I keep rattling, then it'll go above your head. But now I guess it's already time. You want me to continue? Yes? Or you need a break to drink some water or something?
No, ma'am, we'll continue.
I'll continue? Okay. Fine. So now we are coming to the applied aspects. So we saw about the origin, we saw about the course, and we saw where it terminates. Where does it terminate? It will terminate in the anterior consoles of the spinal cord. Okay. So that is the termination. It will terminate in the anterior consoles of the spinal cord. So what will happen if, supposing anywhere in the course of this tract, anywhere it gets cut off? Cut off means it can be an accident, a bullet injury, or it can be, the commonest thing is cut off of blood supply. Okay, if any part of the brain throughout this, if the blood supply gets disrupted, it can be because of two things. One can be due to hemorrhage. Hemorrhage means bleeding. See, supposing we saw the case, isn't it? It's a hypertensive. Supposing a person's BP is too high, then what will happen in the brain? There are very small blood vessels. These are very small blood vessels. If the pressure becomes too high, they can simply rupture. and they will start bleeding. Okay. Then if supposing there's a blood vessel that's going to the brain, it ruptures off, then the brain, part of the brain beyond that where it is ruptured will not receive blood, isn't it? So that area of function will be lost. So you can have anything happening in your body like your hemiplegia because of either because of a rupture of a blood vessel and hemorrhage bleeding into the brain, or the blood vessel that is coming can get blocked. Then the blood will not flow further, okay, because of a thrombosis. It's getting blocked. Either way, the blood supply is lost and the part of the brain beyond will lose its function. Okay, if I say, I think I should not have shown you the slide, but anyway, I will ask you why. Okay, if supposing, okay, see, this is a big area of the brain. Entire brain will not get damaged. There's one blood vessel here getting damaged. So supposing one small area is gone, okay, then you will have entire loss of function on one side of the body or only a part. Quickly, we will run through. Shruti, can you tell me? Or Shweta, are you here?
Part of the body, ma'am.
Yes, why? Because there are
homunculus.
Yes, the millions of fibers coming from the entire area. Only this little bit is gone, isn't it? So that will supply muscles of. It is not like one bit here is gone means it is not like. I'm sorry, it's not like only one muscle will be gone. Okay, that is only from the spinal cord. When something is gone, that muscle will be gone. But here, if some area is gone, it will rather instead of one specific muscle, one specific pattern of activity, for example, a flexion, all that is involved in that one action will be gone. Okay, so it's like that. So a group of muscles will be gone. So here, if supposing this area is gone, you can have one of the limb that is affected, either a lower limb area or the upper limb area. Okay, so it's called as monoplegia. I'm sorry. Monoplegia means one limb is affected. Okay. And coronary radiata also so many fibers coming. So if little bit is gone, only one limb will affected because the remaining will be normal. Okay, remaining area is normal. So only one of the limb will get affected. Okay, plegia means paralysis. Mono means single. Okay, when can you have hemiplegia, ma? Where can be the lesion?
Internal capsule.
Very good. When the internal capsule, everything gets organized into a compact bundle, even a small lesion means it will affect more. So internal capsule, you will get, supposing I say there is a lesion in the right internal capsule, then which side will get affected, right or left?
Left.
Yeah.
Left
Why?
side, ma'am.
Why?
Because the fibers decussate at the level of pyramid.
Fibers will cross over to the opposite side, isn't it? So it will be contralateral hemiplegia. Okay. When we say ipsilateral, it means same side. When we say contralateral, it is opposite side. So coming lower down in the brainstem, if it is midbrain, again you will have contralateral hemiplegia. Plus this cranial nerves we told you, at each level of the midbrain, you will have their nucleus. Okay. So from there, whichever is going to that muscles. So if supposing it's, what is the third nerve? What's the third nerve?
Oculomotor nerve.
Going to control your eye muscles. So if there is a lesion there in that midbrain, from there that nerve is going to go to your eye muscles. So you will have on that side eye movements will be affected. Okay. If supposing the medial rectus is affected, then they will not be able to move your eye medially like that. So ipsilateral means same side. So if there is a lesion in the midbrain, because in the midbrain you'll have your third and fourth nerve nucleus. In the pons you will have 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, then 9, 10, 11 till you have in the medulla, their nucleus. From there only the nerve will come to the corresponding muscles. All that you will learn in anatomy. So right now, no. If it is a problem in the cortex or in the coronary area, it's going to be monoplegia. If there is a lesion in the internal capsule, it's going to be hemiplegia because the fibers are in a compact bundle. So larger part of the body will be affected. And if it's still down midbrain, pons, medulla, along with hemiplegia, you will have this nerve fibers which is coming along, no? That will be getting affected. So the corresponding nerve. So whichever is conspicuous nerves, that alone they have named as syndromes. So it is all you will learn in clinical side. No need to mug up now. Just know if you want to. It's in the third nerve with if there is a hemiplegia with third nerve, it's called as Weber syndrome. If there's a hemiplegia with sixth nerve, it's called Raymond syndrome. If it's with facial nerve, it's called Miller-Tobler syndrome. The main thing for you to remember is the usual hemiplegia, which has a commonly the lesion will be in the internal capsule. Okay, and below the decussation, when will you have same side hemiplegia? Ipsilateral hemiplegia.
The lesion is after medulla, after the level of medulla.
After the crossing over. Okay.
After pyramid.
Yeah. When it crosses over the same side, then it becomes ipsilateral type of palsy. And why is it said above C5 means both upper and lower limbs will be affected, and below T1 means only lower limbs will be affected? Can somebody say this? Just think, ma. After it comes to the spinal cord, and it is going to go to your muscles of the upper limb, of the lower limb. When I
The fibers has to descend on upper limb.
Enapa? Tell me. Why I said if the lesion is above C5, if you cut pandranga, either accidental injury above C5 na rendum poidum, upper and lower limb rendume poidum. T1 keele, supposing below your back and your back, lower back, somewhere it gets cut na, only lower limbs will be gone. Upper limbs he can use. Why?
C5 to T1 forms the brachial plexus, ma'am. So the corresponding fibers.
That will supply the upper lip, ma'am.
Who was that? Who said that? Hello, I want to reward you. Tell me your name.
Aravind and Vinod.
Okay, Arvind and Vinod. Noted. Okay. So between C5 and T1, the upper limb nerves vandirum. So after T1, you don't have any nerves coming to your upper limb. So below that T1, you will only have nerves going to your lower limbs, right? So anga kattachina mele onno agala. So upper limbs will be normal. All right. From the brain, it is going to come to spinal cord, and from there, it's gone to your upper limbs. So nothing will happen there. You got this, ma? Understood? Yes or no? I need. One of you can say. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is hemiplegia? Hemiplegia is paralysis of one half of the body. The lesion will be in the, why they are saying internal capsule, because நம்ம எங்க வேணா lesion வரலாம், midbrain, pons, medulla, but common எங்க வருதுன்னா internal capsule. Which artery, ma? Anybody?
Charcot artery.
Charcot artery. Which artery is that? Middle cerebral artery.
Cerebral artery.
The lenticulostriate branch of the middle cerebral artery. Okay. So that is a common artery which will get affected, and so that because it gets affected in the internal capsule, usually you will get hemiplegia. That's a commonest lesion. Okay, in the opposite internal capsule. So if there is a lesion in the right internal capsule, the left side will be gone. Okay, if there is a left internal capsule lesion, the right side will be gone. And because the corticospinal tract is gone, your skilled movements or your voluntary movements will be affected. He will not be able to draw or write. Okay, it's not that the muscle will not contract because the other tracts are also axillary tracts are also there, and okay, the specific groups of muscles, it will be still contracting, but you will not be able to do that voluntary initiation, the fine skilled movement. Okay, majority of the movement will be gone, and you will have loss of superficial reflexes and exaggerated deep reflex. Deep reflexes is otherwise called as tendon reflexes. Is reflexes taken for you, ma? Or do you know what is superficial reflex and deep reflex? Solna, ma? Do you know, ma? Hello. When I ask the question, somebody answer, ma, please. Do you know, or quickly you want me to tell one line what it means? Should I?
Yes, ma'am. Please tell them.
Okay. What do you mean by reflex? It's an involuntary response to a threshold stimulus, right? So superficial reflexes means I can give you examples like a plantar reflex or anything. If supposing immediately what do you do? When somebody is poking at your eyes, immediately you blink, right? Yes. So that is called as a reflex. Even without you thinking to do, by on your own reflex, you do it, right? Okay. So that is called as a reflex. So a stimulus to your superficial thing like a mucous membrane or skin இப்போ ஏதாவது ஒரு குத்துச்சுன்னா உடனே கை எடுக்கிறோம்ல அந்த மாதிரி. Okay, something is stroking you, immediately withdraw. So that's the superficial reflex. Deep reflex, not deeper muscles, tendons, அங்க இருந்து வர response வந்து deep reflex. Okay, so super reflexes are a chapter by itself. So for now, because we have some more tracks to learn, this much you know what is a superficial reflex and what is a deep reflex. So this deep reflex to occur, I told you in the beginning, no, spinal cord la வந்து நிறைய neuronal circuits இருக்கு. See, this corticospinal tract that is coming down, when I said when it will terminate on the neurons, alpha motor neuron, it doesn't directly go and stop there in the alpha motor neuron. For example, you're coming to from somewhere to somebody's house. You're not from the airport. You're not directly landing into their house. Okay, from the flight, you take a car and then come to the house. Like that, that connect between the two is called interneuron. Purida? It will come and via an interneuron, it will get connected to the alpha motor neuron. Okay, so most of the fibers will not directly land on the alpha motor neuron. Okay, so in the spinal cord liye vandu in the gray horn la nariya neuronal circuits irukum. So whatever is coming into the spinal cord, this interneuron, and whatever is going out, இப்படியே ஒரு circuit இருக்கும். It can operate by itself. Okay, and there will be some control from there, from the brain to the spinal cord, which will be facilitating or inhibiting. I'll give you one quick example. For example, if supposing you want to pass urine, micturition reflex. If your bladder is full, immediately you pass urine wherever you are. Yes or no? Yes. Hello. சொல்லுங்கம்மா, நீங்க interact பண்ணாதான் நான் எடுக்க முடியும். If supposing a bladder is full, immediately you pass urine wherever you are, or you can withhold and then you have to go to the right place and right time, isn't it? Yes?
No.
No. Who will pass urine whenever their bladder is full? Who will pass urine wherever they are? Only kids, isn't it? So as adult, your micturition reflex you can hold. So micturition reflex center வந்து sacral segment of the spinal cord la இருக்கு. So bladder full ஆச்சுன்னா இங்க இருந்து bladder full ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா information will go to the spinal cord. So spinal cord ல இருந்து திருப்பி information bladder வந்து contract பண்ண வைக்க urine வெளியில தள்ளும். Okay, it will make the bladder contract and let out the urine down. But then you cannot go anywhere. If supposing now my bladder is full, immediately this reflex cannot happen. I cannot, or we cannot pass urine wherever we want, even if the bladder is full. Now we can have and control, inhibitory control and facilitatory control from the brain. So brain withhold it. No, even if your bladder is full, this is not the time and place, you'll have to wait. So it will hold it. That is an inhibitory control. Okay, now I finished the class, you want to rush to the toilet. Now again, suddenly you want to pass urine. So now it will facilitate. Brain will send signals. Okay, now that is the right time and place, you can pass the urine out. Okay, so like that. And then spinal cord, body and the spinal cord to body, இப்படியே reflexes நிறைய நடக்கும். But then there will always be control from above. Okay, so most of the deep reflexes are monosynaptic. It can go and come with the spinal cord. The superficial reflexes, it will be from above. Okay, so இப்ப upper motor neuron, internal capsule na மேலேயே கட் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா அங்க இருந்து இதுக்கு input வரலன்னா superficial reflexes cannot happen. Okay, so that is why whether it is an upper motor neuron lesion or lower motor neuron lesion, I will put it simple. Brain la irundhu spinal cord ku varuduma nerve, spinal cord la irundhu muscle ku pogudu. Okay, superficial reflex na in the full connect circuit irukanum. So neenga upper motor neuron na enna, lower motor neuron na enna na, brain la irundhu spinal cord varaikum varudhu upper motor neuron. Spinal cord la irundhu muscle ku ipa C5 6 biceps poduna and nerve vandu lower motor neuron. Purinjudha? From the brain to the spinal cord, it's called upper motor neuron. From the spinal cord to the muscle, it's called lower motor neuron. Superficial reflex ரெண்டுமே தேவை. So upper motor neuron கட் ஆயிடுச்சுனாலும் அதுக்கு மேல input போக முடியாது, கீழே போகாது. So superficial reflex இருக்காது. upper motor neuron intact இருந்தாலும் lower motor neuron கட் ஆயிடுச்சுனாலும் இங்க வந்து திருப்பி அதுக்கு input இருக்காது. So anywhere upper or lower motor neuron, your superficial reflexes will get lost. Lesion if it gets cut off. Okay, and tendon reflexes, deep reflexes, it's more a spinal reflex. Okay, it is usually having an inhibitory control from your brain. So in the upper motor neuron cut ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா அதுக்கு inhibition போயிடுச்சு. உங்களுக்கு ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிள் சொல்லணும்னா, சப்போசிங் நீங்க வீட்டுல எப்ப பாரு வாட்ஸ்அப் பார்த்துட்டே இருக்கீங்கன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. உங்களுக்கு அப்பர் மோட்டார் நியூரானா உங்க அம்மா இல்ல அப்பா அப்பப்ப சொல்லிட்டே இருக்காங்க. They will tell you not to look always into WhatsApp. Supposing your dad has gone out, then that inhibition, that control is gone, so you can all the time be on WhatsApp. Understood? It's like that. This deep tendon reflex is a spinal reflex, monosynaptic. Inga the spinal cord back, but it has an inhibitory control from above. When this upper motor neuron is cut off, that inhibition is gone, so this will get overactive. There's no control from above, so it will get exaggerated. Understood, ma? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now you understand. So hemiplegia ku ennalam features nira idella solanum. Paralysis of one half of the body. The lesion is in the opposite internal capsule, and because you have lost your ventral and lateral corticospinal tract, gross movements, skill movements ellame poidum. But still ungalku konja muscle contraction irukum because there are other tracts which will also supply. Okay. Which will enable these functions, but skilled movements along poidum definitely, because corticospinal tract, especially the lateral corticospinal tract, is the one that will make you all the skilled movements, which is main function of that lateral corticospinal tract is with the fingers and hands, the distal part of your body. So when it is cut off, you cannot do. The hemiplegia patients cannot write or draw or do anything with your fingers. All right. And you have, now this is the question for you. One of you is going to tell me and I'll reward you later. Why increased muscle tone? இப்போ இது வந்து மசில் வந்து கண்ட்ராக்ட் பண்ண வைக்குதுன்னா, இது கட் ஆஃப் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா மசில் வந்து என்ன ஆகணும், கண்ட்ராக்ட் பண்ண முடியாது. அப்ப மசிலோட டோன் போயிடணும்ல. அப்ப ஹைப்போடோனியா தானே வரணும். ஏன் இன்க்ரீஸ்ட்னு சொல்றாங்க, ஏன் ஹைப்பர்டோனியா வந்துச்சு? எனிபடி மா?
Stretch reflexes are present, ma'am.
Okay, I will finish off I will hold this question to the end. Okay, I'll finish off the extrapyramidal tracts and let me see if you can answer. Okay, so these are the features of hemiplegia. Now just give me 10 more minutes, I'll finish. Extrapyramidal tracts are whatever other areas in the brain. See, this is the main pyramidal tract that we learned, that is needed for your voluntary motor control. இப்போ மற்ற ஏரியாஸ் ஆஃப் த பிரெயின் வெறும் இந்த பிரமிடல் ட்ராக்டே நீங்க ஒரு வரையணும் எழுதணும்னா அது மட்டுமே போகாது. ஓகே, யூ நீட் சம் அதர் ட்ராக்ஸ் அண்ட் சம் அதர் ஏரியாஸ் ஆஃப் த பிரெயின், எஸ்பெஷலி இந்த மோட்டார் கார்டெக்ஸ் மட்டும் இல்லை, செரிபெல்லம், பேசல் கேங்லியா, இதெல்லாமும் வேணும். ஏன்னா பேசல் கேங்லியா தான் பிளான் பண்ணும். சப்போசிங் யூ ஆர் சீயிங் அ லயன் தேர், ஓகே, what will be your response? You will go and hug the lion or you'll run away from the lion? What do you want to do, Vinod? Run away from the lion. So if you run away from the lion na, நீ அந்த lion பார்த்த உடனே your mind is thinking, cognition, motor activity na முதல்ல think பண்ணணும். நீ ஏதோ ஒரு வேலை செய்யறனா முதல்ல அதை யோசிக்கணும். அப்புறமா நீ run away from the lion na, நீ lion க்கு face பண்ணியிருக்கும் போது you have to turn around opposite side. அப்புறம் opposite sideல ஓடணும். Run away na you can't run towards the lion, right? So நம்ம திரும்பணும். அதுக்கப்புறம் எந்த காலை ஃபர்ஸ்ட் எடுத்து வைக்கணும், அப்புறம் ஓடணும், அப்புறம் திடீர்னு ஒரு மரம் வந்துச்சுன்னா அது மேலே ஏறிக்கலாம். So you can climb up the tree. So there are different movements that's happening, right? So sequencing. First மரம் ஏறிட்டு அப்புறமா ஓட போறது இல்லை, ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஓடி அப்புறம் மரத்துல இருக்கு. ஸோ இதுக்கப்புறம் என்ன அப்படின்னு நெக்ஸ்ட் மூமெண்ட்ஸ். இப்போ நம்ம வரைகிறோம்னா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் நம்மளோட கை இங்க இந்த மூமெண்ட்ஸ், அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் இது இல்லையா, எடுத்தவொடனே இது அப்புறமா இது இல்லை. ஸோ அந்த சீக்வன்ஸ் ஆஃப் மூமெண்ட்ஸ் இதெல்லாம் பிளான் பண்றது பேசல் கேங்லியா. அப்புறம் செரிபெல்லம்னு இருக்கு. செரிபெல்லம் வந்து கோஆர்டினேஷன், கரெக்டா இதுக்கப்புறம் இது வருதா, இப்ப ஆரம்பிக்கிறோமா, இப்ப நம்ம வந்து காலை வந்து தரையில வைக்கிறோம். if you are keeping our foot on the ground, you cannot keep your foot well above the ground, you cannot go deeper also, you have to keep it correct on the ground, you cannot stamp it like so. எங்க ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணணும், எங்க எண்ட் பண்ணணும், how much should be, you cannot forcibly do and you cannot come slowly, right? You have to do it at a pace, normal pace. So என்ன sequence of movement, என்ன pace of movement, இதெல்லாம் cerebellum assess பண்ணும். So it's, if you're doing one movement in the brain la evlo nadakum. Okay, so all this is happening. So it's not only the pyramidal tract is executing, finally spinal cord is executing, but still all this will happen. But idella evlo fraction of a second la nadakudhu. Neenga appdi or kaiya, if you put it in fire, immediately you take, but all this process has happened adukulla. Okay, so how fast you see our brain is acting. So extrapyramidal tract now, so it's not only the pyramidal tract that is going to do that movement. So நிறைய part of the brain which will assist in the muscle motor contraction. motor movements, they are called as extrapyramidal tracts or extrapyramidal system. Okay, so these are all very complex. The brain actually is very complex. நீங்க ரொம்ப போட்டு குழப்பிக்க வேண்டாம், சிம்பிளா புரிஞ்சுக்கோங்க போதும். pyramidal tract தான் நல்லா தெரியணும். இந்த extrapyramidal tract என்ன tract, எங்க ஆரம்பிக்குது, where it begins, where it ends, and what it does, அவ்வளவு தெரிஞ்சீங்கன்னா போதும். Okay, pyramidal tract only will be an essay question. You did not elaborate about this. If at all, you can just write a few words. So what is this extrapyramidal tract is for? Pyramidal tract, we said it's for fine movements, walking, drawing, and skilled movements. அப்ப எதுக்கு extrapyramidal tract வேணும்னா, இந்த movement பண்ணும்போது I need this joint, my body, everything to coordinate இல்லையா? நான் வந்து படுத்துக்கிட்டு வரைய முடியாது. I have to sit, I have to bend forward, so that maintaining the posture and the proximal portions. This is the distal portion, this is the proximal portion. So அதோட attitude, bodyயோட attitude எப்படி இருக்கணும், ஸ்ட்ரெயிட்டா இருக்கணுமா, வளைஞ்சு இருக்கணுமா, பெண்ட் பண்ணிருக்கணுமா, நான் வரையறதுக்கு அந்த மாதிரி இந்த பாடியோட attitudinal movements. And my head and neck, I cannot look somewhere and draw here, so my head should turn there, neck should be in that position, eyes should be seeing. So இதெல்லாம் coordinate பண்றதுக்கு all these extrapyramidal areas will help you and tracts will help you. All right, so we have so many extrapyramidal tracts. Okay, in that we will see a few of them which is of importance. Cortico nigral na and the substantia nigra, pallidal, இதெல்லாம் வந்து basal ganglia க்கு போகுது cortexல இருந்து. Okay, இது red nucleus, rubral. Okay, so pons க்கு, thalamus க்கு, hypothalamus. So cortex வந்து நிறைய connections will go to each part of the brain. So quickly we will run through. See, now this is the motor cortex. You have a pyramidal tract that is going. You'll also have this tract fibers from the motor cortex going to some other nucleus. நிறைய nucleus தான் இருக்கும் brainல. So red nucleus ஒன்னு இருக்குன்னா அங்க போயிட்டு அது கூட இது வந்து அப்படியே ஸ்ட்ரெயிட்டா டைரக்டா pyramidal tract னா cortexல இருந்து அப்படியே spinal cord direct tract. But சில tracks வந்து இப்ப supposing you're going from one area to another, direct roadம் இருக்கும். Sometimes you can go there, you can rest somewhere, and then from there again you can go take a different route like that. So some fibers will go to some nucleus, okay, relay there, and from there it will go to the spinal cord. So இங்க இருந்து red nucleus க்கு fibers போச்சுன்னா from the red nucleus it will go to the spinal cord. So it is called இங்க வர connection cortico-rubral. அப்புறம் red nucleus in the spinal cord போகுது rubrospinal. Okay, well, like that. So you'll get from the cortex to another nucleus, and from that nucleus you'll go down to spinal cord. Vestibular nucleus na vestibulospinal. Okay, so cortico landa anga fibers போயிட்டு அங்க relay ஆயிட்டு அங்க இருந்து திருப்பி spinal cord க்கு போகும். Understood? So these are all extrapyramidal tracts which will assist in your motor function. The main tract is going to be your corticospinal tract, and these are all the other areas of the brain which will assist to your motor function. So these are some of the main tracts. Rubrospinal. So cortex lende cortico-rubral na red nucleus ku vandirum. Okay, red nucleus is in your midbrain. Anga the spinal cord ku pora tract rubrospinal. So tectum lende spinal cord ku podu midbrain. Anga the spinal cord pona tectospinal. Vestibular nucleus in spinal cord pona vestibulospinal. Reticular area, reticulum na enna in the brain la vandu some part of your brain which is not well defined. Idu basal ganglia, idu cerebellum, இது மிட் பிரெயின், பான்ஸ், மெடுல்லா, இந்த நியூக்ளியஸ் அந்த நியூக்ளியஸ் சொல்றோம்ல, அந்த மாதிரி இல்லாம வெல் டிஃபைன்ட் இல்லாம சம் ஏரியாஸ் ஆஃப் தி பிரெயின் இருக்கும். அதுக்கு வந்து இந்த மாதிரி போற ட்ராக்ஸ் எல்லாம் கொஞ்சம் கொலாட்ரல்ஸ் அனுப்பும். அண்ட் தட் ஏரியா இஸ் கால்ட் அஸ் ரெட்டிகுலர் ஃபார்மேஷன். ஓகே, we have two ascending and descending reticular formation, which has again it's a separate topic by itself. If we learn that, you will understand it better. Reticular formation. So on the reticular area la the spinal cord called the reticulospinal tract. Olivary nucleus in the medulla, from there to spinal cord is olivospinal tract. So quickly I will run through this tract. So rubrospinal tract na red nucleus in the midbrain to spinal cord. Okay va? So that is rubrospinal tract, and spinal cord la ellame in the anterior horn cells dhan pogum. Okay, and from there they will get connected. So all of them will get interconnected and they will sharpen the movement. So it will control the rubrospinal tract on the lateral corticospinal tract கூடவே போயிட்டு it will help with the lateral corticospinal tract in skilled voluntary movements. So rubrospinal tract nale skilled voluntary movements. So which is the main tract? Lateral corticospinal tract. Which tract will also aid rubrospinal tract. Okay va? So the skilled voluntary movement பண்றதுக்கு assist பண்றது rubrospinal tract. So tectospinal tract na again midbrain la இன்னொரு நியூக்ளியஸ் இருக்க ஏரியா, அது பேர் superior colliculus. அங்க இருந்து டவுன் மிட்பிரெயின் கீழ என்ன பான்ஸ், மெடுல்லா, ஸ்பைனல் கார்ட், திருப்பி அந்த ஸ்பைனல் கார்ட்ல ஆன்டீரியர் ஹார்ன் செல்ஸ் போய் ரிலே ஆயிடும். இதுக்கு என்ன வேலை இந்த ட்ராக்ட்டுக்கு? it will regulate the movement of the, it will regulate the movement of the head in response to visual stimuli. Supposing உங்களுக்கு ஒரு ஏதாவது ஒரு பார்க்கணும், ஒரு stimulus வருது கண்ணுக்குனா, your head will turn towards that side இல்லையா? So and the movement of the head regulate பண்றது tectospinal tract. And see, supposing you're doing one action, it's not just that action. So many things you do along, isn't it? You have to see, you have to coordinate your body movements. So all these tracts will assist together and make that function properly done. So vestibulospinal tract, medial vestibular nucleus, lateral vestibular nucleus, two nucleus irukku. So this is the medial vestibulospinal tract. It will come again down through the medulla and then go to the anterior horns of the spinal cord. And this tract is for what? It will adjust here. In the vestibulospinal, remember, it is mainly for your posture and equilibrium. Okay, so it will adjust your body posture and head position in response to angular acceleration. இப்போ நீங்க ஒரு கேம் டோரா அதெல்லாம் போறீங்க, ஏதாவது இதுக்கெல்லாம் வெளியில அந்த தீம் பார்க்லாம் போறீங்கன்னா, supposing it's going around, you have to fix your body posture along. நீங்க எங்கேயோ ஒரு சைடு பார்த்துட்டு அது ஒரு சைடுல போக முடியாது இல்ல, உங்க பாடி ஹெட் எல்லாம் அந்த போஸ்டர்லாம் அதுக்கு ஏற்ற மாதிரி அட்ஜஸ்ட் ஆகுது இல்லையா? இல்லைன்னா you will get dizzy and you will fall down. So அந்த போஸ்டர் ஹெட் எல்லாம் அந்த ஆக்சலரேஷனுக்கு ஏற்ற மாதிரி this will adjust. So that is the function of the medial vestibulospinal tract and the lateral vestibulospinal tract, mainly to adjust your posture and equilibrium in relation to your angular and linear acceleration. Or straight or bike la poringa fast ana adukku etha mari neenga pinnala paathukittu poga mudiyadhu illa. So adukku etha mari body um kuda poganum. So and the posture adjust panni kudukuradhu. Linear na straight bike la and mari poradhu, angular na edavadhu games la and mari poradhu. Okay. And reticulospinal tract, now I told you about the reticular formation, undefined areas of the brain which is not named. They put together those areas as reticular formation, and it is present in the pons and medulla. And there are tracts that are passing through that, which will receive collaterals from all the ascending and descending tracts. And pons reticular formation on the facilitatory, means it will facilitate the impulses. So இது pontine reticular formation na அதை வந்து stimulate பண்ணும். Medullary reticular formation it will inhibit a movement. So there will always be sympathetic parasympathetic சொல்றோம் அந்த மாதிரி. There will always be a balance between these two. So this will pontine reticular formation will stimulate or facilitate the pyramidal tract activity, and medullary formation will inhibit the, so that the pyramidal tract doesn't overdo. நீங்க ஏதாவது ஒன்னு எடுக்கணும்னா இப்ப கரெக்ட்டா அதை பிடிக்கணும் இல்ல, ரொம்ப போட்டு கிரஷ் பண்ணிட முடியாது இல்ல. அப்பே ஒரு டம்ளர் எடுக்கறீங்கன்னா கரெக்ட்டா பிடிக்கணும் இல்லையா? You cannot stand here or you cannot crush it. So overdo, underdo ரெண்டுமே பண்ணாம அந்த பேலன்ஸ்க்கு கொண்டு வரது இந்த reticular formation, medullary and pontine reticular formation ஓட work. All right. Okay, so here is that in the, if you take cut section, this is the pontine reticular formation, this is the medullary. It is just a bundle of fibers that's going down. It will go down and it will go up, ascending and descending reticular formation. Okay. And olivospinal tract is from the olivary nucleus. And this is mainly for proprioception. What you mean by proprioception is your joint. If I'm having this hand like this, I know my elbow is flexed, isn't it? It's not that you don't know where you are. If proprioception pochana ungalku hand irukka feeling e irukadu. So proprioception movements arising because of that. I know from here I'm flexing my elbow, I'm extending my elbow. So that will be coordinated by this olivospinal tract. So these are all accessory tracts which you learned along with the pyramidal tract. But what will be your main thing focus is the pyramidal tract. So you have to know where it originated quickly. Primary motor cortex, premotor cortex, supplementary motor cortex, 30% and 40% from the sensory cortex. Then the corona radiata, then coming down. Midbrain pons, medulla you learned. Okay. In the midbrain it occupies the cerebral peduncle middle 3/5, and then in the pons it's broken down into bundles. Then in the medulla again it made into a compact bundle, and then it formed the pyramid there. Then it crossed over. Then it descended in the lateral, mostly 80% fibers as lateral corticospinal tract and 20% as ventral corticospinal tract, which will extend up to the thoracic level. Okay. And this ventral corticospinal tract that comes also will keep crossing over at each segment. So on the tract இப்படி வரும்போது இப்படியும் fibers போகும், அந்த சைடுக்கும் இருக்கும். So on either side you will have fibers going to both sides. So அதனால வந்து there is something to this. Anybody can say when I said this? Some clinical application to this. Did you understand what I said actually? புரிஞ்சுதாமா? 80% of fibers cross பண்ணுச்சுன்னு சொன்னேன் இல்லையா? 20% டைரக்டா அப்படி ஸ்ட்ரெயிட்டா ventral corticospinal tractல போகும்போது அந்த 20% fibers ஒவ்வொரு செக்மெண்ட்லயும் கிராஸ் ஓவர் ஆயிடும். கொஞ்சம் ஃபைபர்ஸ் கிராஸ் ஆகும், கொஞ்சம் ஃபைபர்ஸ் அந்த சைட்லயே போகும். ஸோ இந்த சைடுக்கும் ரெண்டு சைடும் ஃபைபர்ஸ் இருக்கும், இந்த சைடுல போறதுக்கும் ரெண்டு சைடும் ஃபைபர்ஸ் இருக்கும். வாட் இஸ் இட் அப்ளிகேஷன்? வாட் இஸ் இட்? Why has God designed it like that? Okay, I think you're all tired. I'll tell you. So நம்ம ஹெமிப்ளீஜியா பேஷண்ட்ல எல்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா ரெஸ்பிரேஷன் அஃபெக்ட் ஆகாது, ரெஸ்பிரேட்டரி மசில்ஸும் வேணும்ல நம்ம பிரீத் பண்றதுக்கு. ஓகே, ஸோ அந்த மசில்ஸ்க்கு ஸோ இப்போ ரெண்டு சைடும் இந்த ஃபைபர்ஸ் எப்படி போறதுனால இந்த சைட் கட் ஆனாலும் உங்களுக்கு இப்படி வர ஃபைபர்ஸ்க்கு நேரா மட்டும் போகாம இட் கம் திஸ் சைடு ஆல்சோ. ஸோ யூ வில் ஹேவ் பைலேட்ரல் இன்னர்வேஷன். ஸோ up to the thoracic level, chest வரைக்கும் தான் உங்களுக்கு எல்லாம் respiratory muscles இருக்கு, that will not get affected. So your respiration will be spared. See how beautifully God has created. So even if you lose your hands function, you're not going to stop breathing, right? That is because the fibers that are descending down will cross at the segmental level. Okay, are you all with me, ma? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. We are winding up. That's it. So upper motor neuron, I told you, this is the upper motor neuron ma, from the brain up to the spinal cord. Inga the tract full upper motor neuron. The spinal cord la வந்து relay ஆயிடுது இல்லையா alpha motor neuron ல, இங்க இருந்து the muscle க்கு போகுது இல்லையா. So from here to the muscle is the lower motor neuron. So இங்க எங்க cut off ஆச்சுனாலும் upper motor neuron lesion, இங்க எங்க cut off ஆச்சுனாலும் spinal cord ல வெளியில வரதுல muscle வரைக்கும், wherever it gets cut, that is a lower motor neuron lesion. புரிஞ்சுதா? Okay. So upper motor neuron lesion la, I told you this, I told you already, ரெண்டுத்துலயுமே upper motor lower motor ரெண்டுமே superficial reflexes will be lost, but inga upper motor neuron la deep reflexes will be exaggerated because அதோட higher control போயிடுச்சு. So it's a deep reflex is a monosynaptic, it will come to the spinal cord, it will go back, and the control போதும் அதுக்கு, மேல இருந்து அதுக்கு வந்து inhibitory control தான். So அது போயிடுச்சுனா it will become exaggerated, overactive. Okay. And plantar reflex na superficial reflex, when you stroke the sole of the feet, usually it will be a flexor because these are flexors, excitated to flexor, so it will be the toes will flex like this. So upper motor neuron lesion irundhuchina and the flexion poirum, so you'll get an extensor plantar response. I repeat, the normal plantar reflex na, it's one of the superficial reflex where if you stroke the sole of the feet like this, or key vechi be stroke panninga vechukonga, you are stimulating the skin இல்லையா. ஸோ அந்த ஸ்டிமுலஸ்னால இந்த டோஸ் எல்லாம் வந்து இப்படி ஃப்ளெக்ஸ் ஆகும். நார்மலி ஃப்ளெக்ஸார் பிளான்டார் ரெஸ்பான்ஸ், அதுதான் நார்மல். அந்த அப்பர் மோட்டார் நியூரான் லீஷன் வந்துருச்சுன்னா அந்த சூப்பர்ஃபிஷியல் ரிஃப்ளெக்ஸ் போயிடும் இல்லையா. ஸோ எக்ஸ்டென்சார் வந்துடும். ஸோ அந்த ஃப்ளெக்ஷன் எல்லாமே எக்ஸ்டெண்ட் ஆகும். ஸோ தட் இஸ் நோன் அஸ் எக்ஸ்டென்சார் பிளான்டார் ரெஸ்பான்ஸ் ஆர் பெபின்ஸ்கிஸ் சைன். ஸோ அதை பண்ணிட்டு சிம்பிளா வந்து அப்பர் மோட்டார் நியூரான் லீஷன் இருக்கான்னு கண்டுபிடிச்சிருவாங்க. நீங்க நியூராலஜி வார்டில் போனீங்கன்னா ஒரு பேஷண்ட் படுத்துட்டு இருந்தாங்கன்னா ஒரு கீ எடுத்து இப்படி ஸ்ட்ரோக் பண்ணாலே இப்படி மேலே போச்சுன்னா ஃபிங்கர் டோஸ் எல்லாம், then they know it's an upper motor neuron lesion because there is an extensor plantar response. Okay, and muscles வந்து இங்க spinal cord ல இருந்து specific muscle க்கு போறதுனால அந்த muscle ஓட action cut off ஆயிரதுனால there will be muscle wasting. இங்க வந்து மேல இருந்து நிறைய muscles சப்ளை பண்றதுனால only if you don't use the muscle it will go into atrophy. இல்ல சும்மா கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சம் அவங்க இப்போ நீங்க hemiplegia they will slowly regain. And fine movements illana kuda they can drag and walk like that. So adu mari use pannama irundha da atrophy agum. That's called as disuse atrophy. Otherwise there won't be much wasting of the muscle because they can still, I told you, they can still contract their muscles. Okay, and what is the cause? It is usually the internal capsule lesion, damage to the motor tract above the spinal cord. Below the spinal cord, from the anterior horn cell to the muscle, it is lower motor neuron. One question remains. I asked you why spasticity here. Okay, you have to tell me that. அதாவது இப்ப அப்பர் மோட்டார் நியூரான்னா இங்க கட் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா மசில்க்கு போறதுக்கு கன்ட்ராக்ஷனுக்கு இல்லையே, அப்ப மசில் ஃபிளாசிடா தானே இருக்கணும், ஏன் வந்து ஸ்பாஸ்டிக்கா இருக்கு? எப்படி அது ஓவர் கண்ட்ராக்ட் ஆகுது? ஸ்பாஸ்டிக் ரிஜிட்னா ஓவர் கண்ட்ராக்ட் ஆகுதுன்னு அர்த்தம், ஃபிளாசிட்னா அது கண்ட்ராக்ட் ஆகாதுன்னு அர்த்தம். நம்ம இங்க கட் பண்ணிட்டோம்னா when we are cutting off here, there is no input to the muscle, then how is it going to be flaccid? I mean, it has to be flaccid. How is it going to be spastic? Why spasticity or why muscle tone is increased?
Is it due to inhibitory effect to the reticulo spinal tract usually is there, but in the upper motor neuron lesion, the inhibition is lost, so the reticulospinal tract action is enhanced and more spasticity can occur.
Yes, you are somewhere close. But the reason actually is it's somewhere close. But what happens in a pyramidal tract lesion now? In the pyramidal tract fibers வருது இல்லையா, அது கூடவே பக்கத்துலயே you will get the extra pyramidal fibers. So whenever you have a pyramidal tract lesion, that alone won't get lost. Okay, you will have that extra pyramidal fibers also getting lost. Okay, so usually நீங்க வெறும் pyramidal tract lesion வேணும்னா you only have to slice off. ஒரு நைஃப் எடுத்து நம்ம எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்டலா வெறும் pyramidal tract கட் பண்ணா அப்ப what you will get is flaccidity, because pyramidal tract மட்டும் போயிடுச்சு, so muscles flaccid ஆயிடும். But normally clinically in a patient the extra pyramidal fibers will also get affected. Okay, and you know that we had that, or then that part of the answer you said, whoever said that continues. So because even the extra pyramidal fibers are getting involved, that inhibitory control is lost, and so now you understood. So that inhibitory control will be lost, and so they overact. Okay, so this pyramidal tract lesion is never a pure pyramidal tract lesion in clinical in practice. Normally it will also involve extra pyramidal fibers. If you have to get a pure pyramidal tract lesion, நீங்க ஒரு கத்தி எடுத்து வெறும் pyramidal tract fibers மட்டும் கட் பண்ணி விட்டீங்கன்னு வெச்சுக்கோங்க, அப்ப you will not get spasticity, you will get flaccidity. Understood? Understood, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. If you have any doubts, we can always, I will track ascending tracts, you can always ask me again. Okay. Now pyramidal tract, simply just to compare, this is a new tract, that is even in animals they will have this. This is a new cortex வந்து நம்ம humanல தான் இவ்வளவு பெருசா evolve ஆயிருக்கு. Animals don't have this big cortex. So this is a newer evolved. And here pyramidal tract will get fully functional only after 2 years. Okay. That is why this plantar response can be positive. Babinski sign can be positive up to 2 years, because pyramidal tract fully develop function after 2 years. So abnormal plantar response can be happening in a child less than 2 years, and then after 2 years only it will become fully functional. This will become functional from birth itself. This is more like in the climbing. இப்போ ஒரு குரங்கு போய் மரத்து மேல ஏறுதுன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, ஸோ அது மாதிரி பிறக்கும் போதே இட் கேன் கீப் ஜம்பிங், ரைட்? ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி இது ஓல்டர் ஒன், அண்ட் இட் கேன் ஸ்டார்ட் ஃப்ரம் பர்த், ஆல் த ரிஃப்ளெக்ஸஸ் அண்ட் எவ்ரி திங். திஸ் வில் ஹேவ் டு மெச்சூர் அண்ட் கெட் ஃபங்க்ஷனல் ஒன்லி ஆஃப்டர் 2 years. Then this is involved with fine movements. நம்ம வரையறதுக்கு எழுதுக்கலாம். Whereas animals don't do all that, no? Only gross movements, climbing, jumping. So this is mainly for gross movements. And I told you, majority of these fibers are for slow. Only the Betz cells fibers, அது மட்டும் தான் faster conduction. இங்க வந்து it's for faster conduction. And this, though it supplies both upper and lower limbs, this majority focus is for upper limb, because fine skilled movements, so more we do with the upper limb, hand. So this main focus will be for upper limb, and this is more for jumping and climbing. So this main focus is to the lower limb, and these are mainly facilitatory fibers. Extra pyramidal, you have both fibers. I told you, no, pontine reticulum. So you have both facilitatory and inhibitory fibers. So இது மட்டும் கட் ஆஃப் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா உங்களுக்கு இன்ஹிபிஷன் ஆயிருக்கும். ஸோ இதுவும் சேர்ந்து கட் ஆஃப் ஆனதுனால தான் யூ கெட் spasticity. And pure pyramidal tract now you will get flaccid paralysis. You don't get it clinically. You also have extra pyramidal fibers involved. That's why you have a spasticity here as well. When I put flaccid, I have put here pure pyramidal. So to summarize, I'm sorry for taking this time. I had to brief you at least everything, because CNS you have to understand it properly. Now quickly, origin, premotor, primary motor 30%, premotor 30%, and sensory cortex behind central sulcus 40%. And from the layer 5, and from 3% of the fibers out of the million fibers, some 34,000 fibers will come from the Betz cells. They are larger diameter fibers and can conduct faster. The remaining are slower conducting fibers. Pores, we already know, corona radiata, then posterior limb, anterior 1/3 of the, anterior 2/3 of the posterior limb, genu of the internal capsule. Then comes down midbrain. Midbrain, it will occupy the cerebral peduncle, middle 3/5. Then comes down, broken into bundles in the pons. Then again comes as a compact bundle, reunites or organizes itself, and that forms an elevation called pyramid. That's why the name pyramidal tract. And at the lower end of the medulla, 80% will cross over, and they will travel in the lateral white column. That is why the name lateral corticospinal tract. Okay, these are all, these yellow ones are descending tracts, these red ones are ascending tracts. We just look here. So it will descend down in the lateral corticospinal tract, and from each segment it will go to the corresponding muscles. So up to that, and it will where it will terminate in this area, it will have neurons. Okay, they are called as anterior horn cells. So it will they don't directly terminate on the anterior horn cells. The cells will be here in this anterior gray horn. So it will terminate on an interneuron. Angarthu or interneuron or kutti neuron will connect it to that motor neuron. Motor neuron la lend irukku alpha motor neuron, gamma motor neuron. ஒரு மசில் இருந்ததுன்னா வெளியில இருக்க எல்லா ஃபைபர்ஸ்க்கு பேரும் எக்ஸ்ட்ரா ஃபியூசல் ஃபைபர்ஸ். மசிலோட சென்டர்ல, ஐ திங்க் யூ நோ இட், யூ ஆல்ரெடி ஹேட் த லாஸ்ட் கிளாஸ் ஆன் மசில் ஸ்பிண்டில் அண்ட் டோன். ஸோ சென்டர்ல ஒரு ஸ்பெஷலைஸ்ட் ஃபியூ மசில் ஃபைபர்ஸ், இட் இஸ் என்க்ளோஸ்ட் இன் a fusiform muscle sheath. Those are called as intrafusal fibers and it is named as muscle spindle, which is the receptor for the muscle. So அந்த muscle spindle மசிலோட நடுவுல இருக்கிற அந்த மசில் ஸ்பிண்டிலுக்கு போய் சப்ளை பண்றது காமா மோட்டார் நியூரான். ஸோ இங்க ரெண்டுமே இருக்கும், ஆல்ஃபா மோட்டார் நியூரான் இருக்கும், காமா மோட்டார் நியூரான் இருக்கும். ஸோ லேட்டரல் கார்டிகோஸ்பைனல் ட்ராக்ட் வந்து ஒவ்வொரு செக்மெண்ட்ல எண்ட் ஆகும்போது ஒரு இன்டர் நியூரான் போய் அந்த ஆல்ஃபா மோட்டார் நியூரானுக்கு கனெக்ட் பண்ணுவோம். ஆல்ஃபா மோட்டார் நியூரான்ல நர்வ் வெளியில போய் இட் சப்ளை த மசில். ஸோ தட்ஸ் அ டெர்மினேஷன். அப்புறம் ஃபங்க்ஷன்ஸ் மெயின்லி lateral is for gross skilled movements, fine skilled movements, and ventral is for gross voluntary movements, walking, running, like that, climbing. And generally this corticospinal tract will influence your muscle tone and reflexes because it's involving the muscle. And applied aspects, we looked into the hemiplegia mainly, which is loss of function of one half of the body, and you will have loss of superficial reflexes and exaggerated deep reflexes, and spastic muscle tone will be increased, and positive Babinski's sign, which is an extensor plantar response. Normally it will be flexor. With the cut off the muscles will be, there will be an extensor response. All right. So you can write a short note about hemiplegia and end it there. So this is how, with a schematic diagram, you can just write your pyramidal tract. I hope I made myself clear. Thank you so much. Are you in this state? I hope you are not. I hope you understood. You're not pulling your hairs. And if anything, any doubts, you can always, I think now it's too late. You can always get back to me. You can post your thing. You can get my number from Vinod anytime. You can WhatsApp me straight also. I will reply to you in WhatsApp, or you can send it to Vinod and he will send it across. I will always reply you. And anything we will continue. We will be continuing with the classes. You can also ask in the next class. All right. Thank you so much for your patient listening, and I hope it was useful. Thanks again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, hope it was useful. Because we had a break in between, I had to a little bit speed up my thing because I don't know if you're compelled to wait here. So thank you so much. Just read through it. My suggestion would be, please read through it today itself or tomorrow. Just give a glance, because now we are reading about the brain, right? There's something called memory. Now, once it's just like the computer. You work on the computer, you have to press save button, otherwise it will go off. So you're saving now, you have to read through once again. You just heard from me, you would have understood. Now this temporary memory to become a permanent memory, you have to read once, okay? Read once or twice, then you will never forget. If you think you can read next week, then you will forget it, all right? So thank you so much and have a great weekend. Bye.